Lang, who has a very fabulous story. And we're going to learn. Oh, sorry. Oh, my goodness. Sorry. Oh, my goodness. It's on silent. Hold on. Since nobody is, I can't get rid of this. No.
She said no.
Yep. So, just to start out again, the name of my company is called Mastery Under Pressure. And I know that we have a lot to talk about about that, Herbert. So when things go haywire, right, we have to be able to kind of shift very quickly and kind of move to, I like to say, what was 2 minutes ago is no more. So here we are in the present, and I'm welcoming you for the third time. This is my guest, Herbert Lang, and he has a lot to share with us, and we're going to learn a lot more about him. And at the same time, I just want to talk a little bit about Mastery Under Pressure is sponsoring this Under the Hood. And Under the Hood is all about patterns that are created in childhood impact us as grown-ups. And part of our focus these days is really looking at conflict, inner conflict, what happens between me, what happens between me and the next person, what happens between us and the world. And so, whatever you can weave in, Herbert, that has to do with some of the struggles that you've had and how you have overcome them, I'm really interested in. I know our guests are really interested in hearing. So, I don't have a bio because I like it to unfold as we kind of talk. But I do want to say that you are a former Harlem Globetrotter and now very specialized in the topic of kindness. And that's how we sort of connect here. So, my first question, Herbert, tell us a little bit about your background, your family of origin, the people that were really important to you. Just give us a little picture.
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you, Tina, for allowing me to be on your platform and sharing it. Thanks for taking time out to even show interest in my story, my history. But I'm originally from Brinkley, Arkansas. Grew up in a little small town, sits right between Little Rock, Arkansas, and Memphis, Tennessee, off of I-40. The population of my town, I think when I graduated high school, we had about 3,000 people. I think we're down to about 2,000 now. But the thing about my community was it was exactly that. It was a community, and in the community, you have a lot of people who are responsible for raising us, so to speak, and bringing us up. And I think that for me, I know that having my grandparents on my dad's side as well as my mother's side there in that small community and being able to get a lot of wisdom from them was one of the big factors in some of the success that I've been able to have in my life, along with the teachers, the basketball coaches, the pastors, and just good people, willing to make sacrifices, willing to speak up for you and, kind of point you in that right direction. So for me, being able to grow up in a small community like that with so many influential people that you could have personal relationships with are some of the same skills and tactics that I use today when I'm going around speaking about kindness, because I know that it takes more than just the people within your household, the mom or the dad or the grandparent to raise us for us to become the better versions of ourselves. It takes examples. It takes people who are willing to sacrifice for you to be a part of your story and a part of your success.
Beautiful. So, very specifically, what were some of the traits that you learned that really impacted your success? Some of the things that your core values that you got from from your upbringing.
Well, for me, I think definitely consistency and working hard. As far as being a becoming a professional athlete or someone who wanted to go to college, my high school basketball coach, he had been teaching and coaching for about 25 years when I first met him. And one of the things that he noticed from a lot of athletes is that they weren't willing to put the time in to make the grades. They were willing to put the time in when it came to working on the basketball court or on the football field, but I had to learn how to set that time apart to be able to set time apart to be able to study, to be able to even lock myself sometimes up in a closet. Because being the oldest of six kids, I had a lot of younger brothers and sisters who were always around. And so it took me having to have that discipline, willing to say, okay, from 7 to 8:30 p.m., I am going to be studying, for my history test or my math test, or doing a little bit of reading, and being able to be consistent in these certain, aspects of my life are things I was able to use later on. Like going into college, I had already developed these patterns and techniques, knowing that I need to be organized and putting time aside other than just playing video games. I mean, I love to play Nintendo back then. It was, the big thing, the Nintendos. But for me, it was important to be able to set that time aside, to be able to study, to even sometimes be able to go into the library and take some time.
So let me ask you a question. A lot of times people say to me, "Oh, Tina, you're very disciplined," which is this is discipline that you're talking about. And for me, it was always about, I never really saw it as discipline. I just wanted the goal. And I just knew that the only way that I was going to get there was to be disciplined. Could you speak to that a little bit, in terms of what was really driving you? Because this intrinsic motivation, right, we know is the highest form of motivation.
Well,
So
it was certainly discipline. I mean, to become a professional athlete, you have to become disciplined, and I think that's why a lot of even I speak to a lot of people about like former college women players. A lot of them are like CEOs and presidents of companies because they're disciplined. They have that work ethic. They're used to having a routine and sticking to it. And for me, I can remember being even at a young age, being 14, 15 years old, and remembering some guys who had come before me being out at the track running when no one else was out there. And so for me, I wanted to follow some of those same patterns that they did. And so in order for me to be able to achieve some of the things I wanted to achieve, I had to go out to the track and run when nobody was out there. Sometimes at 8 o'clock at night, running from one side of town to the next. I mean, it wasn't the biggest town, but to be able to, have that discipline and say, you know what, I'm not going to walk, I'm going to run. So I'm in the best condition when I step on the football field or when I step on the basketball court. I'm going to be in the best position to make the good grades because I've studied, I've read, I've prepared myself, I've
So,
done the
so let me ask
research.
you this, Herbert, how did that impact with other teenagers your age? Again, you are separate in that way, I'm sure, because it's not average for having that level of discipline. And did you have the desire to be a professional basketball player or football player from that young age?
I think for me, it started in about seventh grade. And when you talk about the difference, I'd say for me, I remember in my town, we had a twice a week newspaper that comes out. And so every, 9 weeks or so, you'd have the honor roll. And it was important for me to be one of those kids that was on the honor roll. I don't think everybody worked hard to be on the honor roll. I prepared myself in a way that if I didn't become a great athlete, I would still have the grades to be able to go to college because I wanted something, bigger. I had a chance as a young kid to travel from ages 5 to 12. Every summer, I'd go to Dallas, Texas, and that's where I'd spend the summer.
Mhm.
And at these recreation centers, I would see these different professional athletes. I mean, I can remember seeing Dallas Mavericks players in the gym working out in the summertime, getting ready to play. So for me to be able to go back to my smaller hometown, I had a little bit of an advantage. A lot of these kids didn't have the opportunity to travel and see some of the things that I was able to see. So for me, it started then, knowing that there was more out there in the world than just what we would see in my little town with two stoplights. And I definitely think that that's something that helped me. I mean, it established me as a leader. I was able to make the grades. I was able to become class president. People respected my work ethic. They knew that I was making good grades. But I knew that even if I didn't become a great athlete, although I was working at that, there was one thing that I could do was lock in, study, make good grades, and get a scholarship because there's no way that my parents would be able to pay for me to go to college.
There you go. So a lot of this was, as again, we use the term intrinsic, your own motivation, right? And then a lot of guidance from all the wonderful mentors and people that you had around you. Let me ask you another question. What was some of the things that would get in your way? You were obviously a model, athlete, student, all of those wonderful things. What were some of the patterns, again, that got you into a little trouble that you had to kind of learn how to move beyond?
I would say probably some of the things that got in my way were probably just things that happened at home. I mean, my mother, she had me at a really young age, so I was around, a little bit of poverty. I didn't have some of the same advantages that some of the other kids had. Not that there were a lot of rich people in my town, but that was something that I had to, be able to get over. Not being able to go to different basketball clinics and different things like that at times. But also, I was also surrounded by some domestic violence, and so for me, that was something that I had to overcome it, overcome as well. Being able to kind of lock that out, and also knowing that how hard my mom worked. I knew how hard she worked, and one of the goals that I always had, and I even share now with my kids, I never wanted to disappoint my mom. I always wanted to make my mom proud. So that was kind of the motivation. But also, when it came to sports, it was my height. I was always one of the shorter guys on the basketball team until I became a senior in high school. But the work that I put in before that allowed me that when that opportunity came and when I grew, it just took me to the next level. But I'd say probably some of the things I had to overcome, definitely finances, things that happened at home, and just
How
probably
did you
just
do it? Give us some little ideas, some tips, because this program is for hopefully aspiring leaders that, a lot of times when we see people who are successful, we imagine, oh, well, life must have been, relatively easy for them, or they had this or they had that. And for every single person that I have interviewed here, that is absolutely not the truth. And so that we all have issues, we have things that we have to work through, that we have to kind of learn how to manage at the same time that we have these great big giant wonderful goals for ourselves. So what were some of the ways that you learned how to deal with the poverty, deal with what you didn't have? How did you manage that, internally?
I think that I've always been a big dreamer. And so I learned at a young age that, it's possible for dreams to come true. And as I begin to, grow and develop, I see different accomplishments because I didn't always make good grades. It wasn't until I got in probably ninth grade, and it came from from putting in that work and studying. And once I began to realize, yeah, if I do put an extra hour in to studying for history, or if I do ask for some help, which even then sometimes it's hard to ask for help. If I do ask for help and I'm kind to people, then people are willing to help me. And I think that was a big thing, like really being able to ask for help, but also being willing to put in the work. And that's one of the things I think that people respected about me, even at a young age. I'm the kind of person that I don't come in to a team or a business, so to speak, as a leader. I've always kind of came in from the back, paid attention, observed, kind of know the temperature of the room, and kind of worked my way up to the front in that way. So I think for me, it was just being able to see people have success, people believing in me, and me actually being able to understand, the things I had to do to be able to achieve a certain level of
Make
success.
sacrifices is what I'm hearing you say,
Yeah,
right?
having to make sacrifices. I mean, there were, a couple of probably what 10th, 11th grade proms and things like that, that were missed. Probably some, trips out to the basketball court, being able to go and play with my friends, because like, hey, I'm coming home from school sometimes, and I'm going to lock in and get this studying out of the way. So I mean, it's definitely having some discipline, making sacrifices. Some of the same things that that we do today. In order to be successful, you have to make some sacrifices. In order to have good health, even at as you get older, you have to put away and stop doing some of the things that
You do.
did that didn't bring you a certain level of success. So I mean, definitely a lot of sacrifice. And I truly believe that when it comes to success, these patterns are and they're able to be repeated. As I've seen since I retired from the Globetrotters after 18 years, I realized that if I did something once, I can do it again. I realized that if I played for 18 years, there was a reason why they kept me around for 18 years. And I get to implement some of those same skills, some of those same techniques that I use to help that business, gain certain partnerships or collaborations. I get to use those same skills and tactics to be successful for myself as well.
So you bring out something again that I want to just kind of highlight. Many people, okay, kind of look at something that's really difficult. I'm working with a 14-year-old golfer right now on his mental game, and his goal is to be the number one golfer in the world. Okay, great. Okay, so if that's your goal, what are the things that you need to do in order to make that happen? And what is the succession of confidence that you need to build that you can do this, right? So by you saying, I did it once, I could do it again. Many people kind of look at something and they look at something that's real. Even my father used to say, I had a son that was an elite athlete, elite soccer player, and his goal was to be on a professional team. My father used to say, "Oh, you know how many few people get to be on a team?" I said, "But somebody does. Somebody gets to be on that team." Right. So as opposed to this is really hard, this is too much, I can't do this, as opposed to I did it once, I can do it again. And what you're also describing is looking at how people did that. I always tell my kids and my clients, what's the path that when somebody went on? Follow the path. You know, if they were successful, they did something that you may want to learn from. So I want to ask you again, yet another question. We talked a little bit again, because I'm looking a lot at some of the things that are going on in our world in terms of conflict and misunderstanding one another and misunderstanding ourselves. How did you learn to deal with conflict? Because you mentioned that there was some conflict that was in your household. How did you do that?
Well, for me, I think it was paying attention. I was lucky enough to have some people in my family who had strong households where they had a mother and father who, kind of got along. Also, for me, just I've never been a fighter. I've always been a person that tried to, talk things out, even as to negotiate, so to speak. So I feel like even growing up in the South in the '80s, I can remember watching television. There were, Martin Luther King stuff that happened. He passed away a little bit after me, but every year there would be like big Martin Luther King month, and he always talked about, turning the other cheek, so to speak. So I just realized that there's better ways for us to resolve conflict than fighting. It takes being able to have a conversation. It takes being able to hear things from both sides, and I'd say it really helps again, me being able to travel at a young age. And that's something that I express to young and old people right now. If you travel around this world, this United States, and have some experiences on your own, aside from the things that you see on social media, the things that you see on television, you're able to form your own opinions and better understand why people think and feel a certain way. So I think it's just a matter of being open minded. I think that's a way of resolving conflict and realizing that we all come from, for the most part, from different backgrounds, different race, different cultures. But at the end of the day, and I learned these ideas from traveling. It also helped when I began to travel to different countries. I've been to 88 different countries around the world with the Harlem Globetrotters, and I realized that even people who didn't look like me, didn't necessarily have the same beliefs as me, were still good people. It wasn't always the way that we see things depicted on television. So I always encourage people, even if you look at my TEDx talk, I tell people get a passport. Upon the delivery of the of at my college, I did commencement, and I told those young people get a passport, travel the world, form your own opinions. And I also believe once I got to college, it broadened my horizons because I began to meet people that were from different parts of the world that I could get along with, which was pretty different from what I had understood as far as growing up until I was about 17, 18 years old. So I just think it comes with being open minded, being able to listen. Being able to listen, it helps.
Yes, I just created a new little tagline for my company, and it says that trust trust grows with deep listening. So seek to understand each other, seek to understand people, and that's kind of what I'm hearing from you. That your whole demeanor is open, it's possibilities, it's wanting to hear people, it's wanting to include people, and this is kind of what we're really needing and looking for in this world today. So I got another question for you. Think back, or it could be even so present, as one of the really big challenging experiences that you've had, that really kind of got you.
Oh
And
wow.
that we all have them.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah,
know, right?
that's a great question. Go ahead.
And tell us, kind of what happened and then how you resolved it.
For me, I would have to say one of the big things that happened, it was probably in 2017, from 1999 to 2017. I was on the high horse. I got yes, 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 everything that I wanted when I was with the Harlem Globetrotters. I had a chance to do, different television shows. I was in commercials, pretty much anything that I wanted as far as when I would reach out to people, it was yes, yes, yes. And then one day, I got that phone call, that it's over with. You have to go in another direction. And it was tough, but immediately upon getting this phone call, I remember taking a full day of tears and reflecting. But I took time out to make sure that I sent an email out to all the people that worked in that organization who were influential in my life. And just after, taking that year off, I went out and I got a job as a Uber driver. And what this did for me was it allowed me to start having conversations again with people. It allowed me to not feel sorry for myself. It allowed me to be able to understand people better and realize how lucky I had been. While at the same time, I went out again and I studied really hard and I got my health and life insurance license. So at this point, I began to knock on people's doors. I began to cold call, So for me, it took me getting back out there, putting myself out there, but also remembering the dreams that I had. A lot of those dreams that I accomplished during the Globetrotter years were things that I still wanted to do. And so since then, again, like I said, it was a matter of me being able to repeat these things. So over the past 8 years since I retired, I've been in a movie, Sweetwater. I've been in commercials. When I was with the Globetrotters, I was speaking. There was a reason why they were bringing me into these different spaces to speak. There was a reason why they were bringing me into these collaboration and partnership meetings. So those same skills and that same personality that I used to help leverage deals for them are also the same things that I get to use now. And I realized also that I was a leader and I love bringing people together. So I just began to keep myself in that same space, but also remember the things that I dreamed about that I was when I was younger. And I remember the work ethic that it took that to get to certain areas of life. I knew that I had to be physically fit. If I'm telling people to be fit, healthy mind, healthy body, then I need to make sure that I am up walking every day, make sure that I am meditating every day, make sure that I am being consistent. So in order for me to overcome that big obstacle, I just had to remember how I got to that point in order so that I could repeat and being able to do and have some of the success that I'm having right now.
Beautiful. I mean, you are the poster child for all the things that we're talking about and that we're teaching. And I know that you're teaching as well. That these patterns that we do create, they do impact us, and we can either be victims of our history, or we could be, just kind of the person that kind of takes it by the bootstraps and remembers, because what you're saying so many times, Herbert, is, and again, I want to really have people remember, we do want to remember the successes. They are our guides. I heard yesterday somebody that we both know who made a statement about confidence. It's the memory of success. I love that. I always say that confidence is built on little successes, but I love that. It's the memory of success, and that we want to remember the things that we've been given and the successes that we've had, because it's so easy to get pulled down into a lot of the negativity and I'm helpless and I can't do anything about the situation. It's not true. It's not true. And from what you described from your family of origin and the grandparents and the coaches, and these people impact us tremendously, absolutely tremendously.
I feel like we have to remember that, in life, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be some wins and there's going to be some losses. And like you said, if you can remember the way that the wins or that success feels, that it's coming back around again at some point. I talk about in high school. In high school, I won a lot of basketball games. We won a lot of football games. When I went to college for 4 years, my school, we had a losing record pretty much every year outside of conference play. We always had a decent record within conference, but for 4 years, I lost. And that came from winning in high school. But the last thing that happened in my college career was being able to go and represent my college on the national stage at the college dunk contest. And I won that. And so that led to another level of winning with the Harlem Globetrotters, where I won for 18 years in a row every single day. And after that ended, then I started to take some losses. People weren't as quick to bring me in, for speaking events, or where it's quick to reach out and just have conversations with me. But over time, by being consistent and showing up and realizing the importance of the brand that I had created of kindness and showing up and treating people better than I could expect to be treated, I'm winning again.
Well,
And I
that's
can expect some losses at sometimes, but at the same time, I know that what it feels like, and I know that the work that it takes to put in to achieve a certain level of success. So when bad things happen, I'm just thinking, what do I get to learn from this? Because I know that a win is coming pretty quickly after that.
beautiful, beautiful. And so tell us, number one, how we can get in touch with you, and number two, what exactly are you doing right now that you want people to know?
Well, Tina, I'm very active on social media. You can find me on Instagram at DA Trotter 4. I'm very active on LinkedIn, Herbert S. Lang, or the motivational speaker at LinkedIn. Right now, I mean, I have several events coming up. I'm an MC at the Innovation Summit in Owensboro, Kentucky. It's the second year of that. Some people may not know that I'm a TEDx speaker. I'm a TEDx MC. I have several schools that I'll be speaking at through the month of April, as well as next month in March between Miami and Nashville. I serve on the National Retired Basketball Players Association Member and Services Committee, where we look for opportunities for former NBA, WNBA, ABA, and Harlem Globetrotter players. So I would just say for people who want to reach out to me, I have a website. It's iamherblang.com. You can reach out there for more information, just to find out what I'm up to. And if you want to bring me in to come and speak, we're happy to put you with my team and we can figure out how to make that happen, Tina.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much. I know that everybody who signed on and didn't see this will get a replay of this wonderful, wonderful conversation with you. And I do know that what you say is what you mean, and who you are is who you present. So thank you for all your good work.
Thank you. Thank you, Tina.
All right. And I just want to add one thing as well. So again, Mastery Under Pressure is sponsoring this.